Now, Adalman was hardly the only top performer here. Alberto was still kneeling by Adalman, who was now visibly fighting his desire to sleep. Behind him, the death dragon was hunched over, trying to make its huge frame as small as possible. They both received blessings from their boss's evolution, so casual conversation probably wasn't their first priority. So I decided to grant Alberto some new battle gear to replace his broken sword. He already had overwhelming sword skills, so with the right weapon in hand, that'd easily be doubled. And while I was at it, I thought, why not give him some of Kurub's best work to date? But then I reconsidered. Among the spoils of war we seized from the enemy were a small cache of legend-class gear. Caligulio, their enemy's top general, even had some god-class items extremely rare in the best of situations. It'd be a waste to just hang that stuff up in a museum somewhere. I tried palming it off on Kurub, but he said he didn't need it, claiming that I can create my own god-class gear by now, sir. And he was right. Benimir's own blade was about to be reforged by Kurub's hands to god-class tier. That much I was assured of, so I decided not to foist this gear on him, after all. So who's the right recipient here? As Caligulio made clear enough, merely being awakened didn't make you truly worthy of god-class gear. Once you reach that level, the equipment chose the owner, not the other way around. I didn't need a fancy analysis to see that. Something gets called God class, I feel, when after many years, the magisteel inside it evolves into crimson steel, and assumes a sort of spiritual existence as a tool, a concept called Sakumagami in Japanese. This means the owner has to be worthy of the item in order to wield it, I imagine, and that's just not gonna happen within a human being's lifespan. Here, meanwhile, we had a noble soul that had become undead, exposed to endless hardship, and still never lost his skills as an acolyte. Now Alberto was a death paladin, and for him the concept of a lifespan was meaningless. He had been applying himself, studying hard and acquiring sword skills that rivaled Hakuro's. Maybe he'd be the right person for this weapon. I thought so anyway. Besides, everyone else in my entourage already had their preferred weapons on hand. Some of them even refused to carry anything not made in Kurub's forge, such was the trust they had in him. Diablo and the three demonesses, meanwhile, could use the skill create material to manifest whatever gear they wanted. The results performed in proportion with the skill of the owner, and for the demons, they could easily surpass legend-level protection. They had zero need to carry any pre-existing armor around. Some people, like Xian, like pouring magic power into their weapon all the time, out of sheer love. Maybe that's why the longsword Xian preferred it now evolved into Gariki Meru version 2, with legend-class murdering capability, without me even really noticing. Her sword did break, didn't it? I'm pretty sure I saw it get cut in half in the battle against Trazel, but now it was good as new. Just like Xian herself, the blade had risen from the ashes like a phoenix. It was more exasperating than surprising, if you ask me. That and scary. And they say Xian puts a lot of love into her cooking, too, but if so, what the hell does her love consist of, exactly? Whatever it was, it could resurrect a shattered sword. Did I really want to consume a meal chock full of that stuff? This was turning into a dangerous train of thought. Time to get back to business. Now that I knew owner compatibility was a big issue with battle gear, I decided that I didn't need to give my top brass anything new for the time being. That was a good enough reason in itself, but Raphael was the one who convinced me in the end, assuring me that Alberto was the best person to receive this god-class blade. I nodded, not questioning its judgment one bit, and decided to go ahead with it. So Alberto would be rewarded with a complete set of god-class gear, a full suit of armor, with a longsword and kite shield thrown in. Alberto, your swordsmanship is among the best in the world. In recognition of this, I grant you this battle gear. Please maintain your world-class skill as you continue to shine in the service of Adalman. Yes, my lord. At my cue, Shuna stepped up, pushing a wagon with all the gear piled on it. Alberto watched her hand it over to him, visibly shaking with anxiety. This is. He must have noticed the caliber of this stuff at first glance. The astonishment was clear in his quivering voice. I can't blame him, there are only a few known examples of this sort of stuff in existence, making them quite literally the gifts of the gods. Being able to handle gear like this is among the highest honors a knight could receive in this world. Do you think you can use this gear? I'm not about to take no for an answer. Sensing the pressure from my gaze, Alberto drummed up his fortitude. Of course, Sir Rimuru. And I swear I will live up to your dreams. His voice echoed through the Colosseum, and I was glad he was so over the moon over it. The moment he touched the god-class armor, it naturally wrapped itself all around his body. It had no problem accepting him as its new master, apparently. But I did make one miscalculation. Once again this true master, the armor's capabilities wildly exceeded anything that I was expecting. As long as Alberto wielded this gear, he essentially functioned as an incarnated spiritual life form. That was the true power of god-class equipment, its ability to temporarily upgrade a being with physical form into one with spiritual form instead. And a spiritual life form is, in so many words, a godlike existence, like Kildora and, well, me, I guess. It doesn't really feel that way, but I'm definitely quite close to immortality. I know I won't age anyway, and it seemed pretty likely that I'd never die, not unless I lost my magicules or experienced a core break in my heart. In other words, spiritual life forms experienced no natural death, were immune to all kinds of status ailments, and could overcome death itself through sheer power of will. That ability to raise people to the same level as such wondrous supernatural beings was enough to convince anyone that God-class gear was truly extraordinary. At the same time, I could understand why Raphael recommended Alberto. Rimuru will be evolving into a spiritual life form on his own, and Ranga and Xian are kind of following in his footsteps, so I'm sure it'll happen to them, too. I didn't think Gabel and Geld were quite there yet, and giving them God-class gear wouldn't change that. Alberto truly was the right man for this stuff, in the right place at the right time, and that was that. And I can't forget about Adalman's pet dragon, either. His death dragon put in a killer effort too, so I definitely wanted to award it somehow. I pondered over what to give, but it wasn't long before I had the perfect answer: a name. No better way to make a monster overjoyed than naming it, right? This would come with some danger normally, but I have Raphael with me. I'm sure he'll keep me safe and regulate the magicule flow and all that. Proposal. In this case, there is already a bond between the subject Adalman and the death dragon. Rather than creating a soul corridor here, I recommend consuming souls for the purpose of naming it. That's an unexpected suggestion from Raphael, but if I opt for that, how many souls are we talking about? Understood. 5,000. Proceed. Yes. No. If it's around 5,000, that does sound like a much safer approach. Raphael had apparently analyzed my souls on hand, and figured out a way to convert them into magicules via Beelzebub, Lord of Gluttony. It was guaranteed not to be dangerous at all, I was told, so how about we go with that? I stood in front of the death dragon, patting its head. It appeared to be pretty nervous about this. Scary looking, for sure, but still awfully cute. I have a reward for you, too, okay? From this day forward, your name is Venti, Dragon Lord of the Underworld. The souls were consumed, and the naming was completed. After that, several dramatic changes took place. The gigantic body of the death dragon, well over 20 yards long, began to shrink, and shrink, and shrink, until what I saw before me was a beautiful woman wearing a dark robe. Who's this? I thought for a moment. But I didn't let it faze me. With monsters, anything goes, really. That's something I've experienced more than I care to admit, and what I've learned as a result is that panic will get me nowhere. I did my best not to show my agitation, maintaining an of course this would happen attitude as best I could. I think I did a good job, too. My most beloved of beautiful gods. I am awed at the blessings you have bestowed upon my lowly body. Oh, sure, yeah. Of course you could talk just fine. Also, I just gave you a name, okay? Any blessings you received came from Adalman, not me. I think we're seeing a mix of effects here, but let's keep that straight, alright. Oh, how wonderful for you, Venti. Yes, master. Our god has not forsaken me after all. Indeed. Our faith has been duly rewarded. It has. What a beautiful master-servant relationship. I felt like I was being left in the dust, but hey, good for them. And so Adalman and his servants had all received their gifts. Consuming souls to name monsters is actually pretty darn convenient, isn't it? If you go around naming Dragon Lord class creatures, there's really no telling how many magicules that'll consume. Even with Raphael overseeing things, I don't have infinite magicules, you know. Beelzebub had helped me gradually stockpile more and more magicules, but I used nearly the whole supply naming Tensura and the other demons. I could have tapped Valdora for some assistance, but I don't think he'd like doing that too much, and getting him to change his mood about something requires monumental effort. That's best kept as a last resort, I thought. I also didn't want myself inadvertently going into sleep mode after an impromptu naming binge. I was running on a much higher baseline of magicules now, and I had no idea how long I'd need to recover from being tapped out. We were still at war here, and this was one dangerous gamble I absolutely had to step away from. With this approach, though, I was home free. Now, on this topic, I had given a lot of thought about how to reward Rimuru. But how about leveraging this new discovery a little? In other words, I figured she'd be tickled pink if I named the 4 Dragon Lords for her. They had no real connection to me, but with this soul-based approach, it'd still work just fine. I really gotta hand it to Raphael for pitching the idea to me, and besides, even after all this evolution, I estimated that I'd still have over 20,000 souls left over. It's thanks to Rimuru that I was able to retain so many in the first place. In fact, she didn't want any from me at all. Just take him. I ain't got no use for him. I felt kind of bad about that, so I thought this would be a nice, elegant way of paying it forward. Hope she's up for the idea. I'll remember to ask her about it later.